Harold J. Leavitt developed Leavitt's diamond model in 1965. Today, it is one of the most widely used models to get an overview of how organizational change will be most effective. According to Leavitt's diamond model, the best way is to split the organization into 4 components. The 4 components are tasks, also sometimes called goals, structure, technology, and people, also sometimes called employees. These 4 components are distinct from each other, but at the same time, there is an interaction between them. The 4 components make up the entire organization. The surroundings can of course also affect the organization and thereby the individual components. We shall now review an explanation of each of the 4 components. Tasks. In most cases, these are about the goods and services that an organization sells. There are exceptions. Public organizations are not dependent on selling goods and services. Their task is to deliver goods and services to the people. For that purpose, we pay our taxes. Structure. This is about the formal patterns of the organization. How is the organization of labor? What is the decision-making structure? What the COO, Chief Operations Officer, must decide versus the decisions the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, has to make. What are the communication patterns? Are you allowed to see all documents? Or are there restrictions depending on the position you hold in the company? Technology. This is actually a slightly misleading term. It's beyond information technology. It also encompasses buildings, refurbishment of premises, the machinery that is in the organization, and the associated workflows. You could say that it is about both hardware and software, as it also deals with IT programs, which today are everywhere. People, also called employees. Overall, it is because people are associated with an organization to such a high degree that they become part of the organization's culture. An organization is affected by many factors. These occur in the organization, as well as outside and into the organization. But whether they come from inside or outside, the organization is affected. You must imagine the organization as a living organism that continuously adapts to both internal changes and external influences. Here are some examples that you probably have heard of, and they will be placed in Leavitt's model. A new IT system, such as a new logistics IT program. It is placed in the component technology. It may affect the component people. The employees in the Department of Logistics need to be trained to handle the new program. Changing legislation. This is clearly placed in the surrounding world. New speed limits do not affect the organization, but if it's new rules about a longer maternity leave, then it affects the component people. But it will also influence the component structure. The organization will have to ensure that all employees are placed so that all tasks are completed. Restructuring of the organization. must of course be placed in the component structure. It affects component people as employees are moved around the organization. Laying off an employee. This is certainly in the component people, but then it becomes the component structure. Tasks are to be distributed amongst fewer employees. And then again, we are back in the component people. The remaining employees have to work harder. New rules for paying VAT. This comes from the surrounding world, and at first it affects the component tasks, which of course change. This affects the component people, since the employees must familiarize themselves with the new rules. And it will probably affect the component structure, as there will be new work processes. The employee's level of education. This is part of the component people. The level of education affects both the component tasks and the component structure. The higher the education level of the employees, the more complicated tasks and responsibilities we can give to the employees. And this has an impact on how decisions should be made, and this is determined in the component structure. The employee's personality. Here we are talking, just like in the previous example, about the component people. It is not just the employee's level of education which is essential for the distribution of responsibility and authority to employees. The employee's personality certainly influences the design of the components, structure, and tasks. There is a big difference whether we are dealing with independent employees who want to work, or with employees who only go to work to make money as easily as possible. The buildings and their interior. Here we begin in the component technology, but it will quickly affect the component people, since a new arrangement of desks affects the employees. The component structure will probably also be affected, as new buildings and interior design will require a new communication and organizational structure. New company cars. Again, we begin in the component technology. It quickly affects the component people, because those receiving the new company cars, hopefully, will be more satisfied. The problem is just that those who do not get a new car may be a bit disappointed. So the manager is going to work a lot more with the employees in the component people when purchasing new cars than with the component technology. You can benefit from using Leavitt's model. Imagine you are a leader who must make your organization work optimally. This requires that you continually make adjustments, since changes always occur somewhere in the organization. These can come from surroundings as well as from within the organization. You must imagine that you are standing in the middle of the model and that you are an agent of change. You must balance the organization. You must take care of the changes in each of the components and how this affects the other components. Now we shall review a criticism of the model. The model does not take into account that several changes can take place at the same time, and there are no priorities given to the changes in their order of importance. However, it is recommended that you use the model so that you don't overlook a component.